and fund based in Singapore with approximately 100 startups in the portfolio. These are AI, ML, blockchain, IoT, robotics, AR, VR startups from different parts of the world, stages, and sectors. Today, we are extremely thrilled to host this thought leadership panel on omnichannel marketing innovations in collaboration with Nickelytics. Nickelytics is a new startup in our portfolio, disrupting the offline marketing space using their innovative solution. We are pretty privileged to have an extremely diverse panel to enlighten us on the innovations, trends, policies that may be disrupting the omnichannel marketing space. Now, without further delay, I would request our esteemed panelists to introduce themselves. And if I may request Eric to go ahead and do the introduction, please.
Hi, everyone. Erica Kavanaugh. So I am VP of Client Experience at Raymond James Financial. I'm responsible for championing the voice of the client across the firm, as well as looking across all the omnichannel touch points. So marketing communications in print, our digital website, digital client portal. And prior to working in financial services, I have experience in a prop tech startup, so tech-enabled home services. And then I did some time in e-commerce and consulting. So nice to meet you guys.
Thanks a lot, Erica. And Erica was just mentioning that they are going to see Storm today. So she's doing this panel with us right before the storm. I think that's pretty interesting. We can see her passion for the marketing. Thanks a lot, Erica, for your presence today. Neil, may I request you to do an intro, please?
Sure. My name is Neil Costa. I'm the founder and CEO of HireClicks. We're a recruitment advertising agency. So all we do is help our clients promote their employer brand and their jobs. I've been in the e-commerce world since 1996 and spent a lot of time at monster.com promoting the Monster brand out in the marketplace to consumers. So thanks for having me.
Thanks a lot, Neil. Appreciate it. James, please.
Hi, everyone. James Allen. I am the co-founder and CEO over at Nickelytics. We are a growing platform that helps advertisers everywhere get access to the best ad tech and the best rates in the market, regardless of their media spend.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, James. Really appreciate your time. Rick, may I request you to do an intro, please?
Yeah, sure. My name is Rick Robinson. I'm CEO of PJX Media. We're an out-of-home agency. We're driven by enterprise planning software, which we created. We work with other independent agencies and brands direct to plan, buy, and execute out-of-home campaigns all over the US and globally.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Rick. Appreciate your time today. Shane.
Yeah. Good morning. Shane Needham. I'm the founding partner at a consultancy called Co-Conspirator. We primarily specialize in brand strategy, messaging, positioning, and activation planning for growth level brands. We also work with agencies behind the scene, and we also have a couple of enterprise brand clients.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Shane. Appreciate your time. Next, I would request Judah, founder and CEO of Nickelytics and moderator of today's panel, to introduce himself. Judah, please.
Yes, like super excited to be here with a very smart group of individuals with diverse backgrounds. My name is Judah. I'm founder, CEO, and Nickelytics. I won't spend too much time, but we work primarily on the offline, helping brands connect to online activity. And then we have some time at the end where we'll be able to kind of talk more in detail on what it is we're doing, what we're building. And I also think there's a chance for the team to roast me, which I'm always up for good roasting. So feel free to, don't hold back. So really appreciate you having me. Should we just move over to some questions?
Yeah, please. Go ahead.
Awesome. Okay, so I think in terms of who we have on the call, there's a total of 5 panelists, around 60 minutes. We're going to try to get everyone's input. If you have a very strong conviction on a particular answer, feel free to take the lead. If you're not answering questions, I will call you out. Think of this as a kind of a presidential debate. Hopefully there's less fighting than presidential debates because I know those can get a little sloppy. So really, again, appreciate everyone. And I think what is a good way to kind of start and level set, right? Because obviously we all eat, breathe, sleep omnichannel. However, we might have some people in the crowd that are not that familiar with what that means. And so I kind of like to start with, a very high level question on, if you had to explain what omnichannel was in the most simple form or simple, context possible, how would you do that? And just, yeah, really, how would you define omnichannel marketing? And I'll leave it open for the panelists to feel free to move forward on this.
Rick, you may want to, or Erica, yeah.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I would define it as anywhere and everywhere that the consumer lives. So providing communications, promotions, pricing, even all the whole marketing suite, but being flexible in how you engage and interact with the consumer.
Love that. All right, who else? Anyone else want to?
I would add to that end, not only is it looking at all touch points, but the real trick we're all trying to figure out is what is the correct fuel mix, right? What is the correct combination? What is the correct weight and distribution and disbursement of all of those touch points in order to achieve whatever your approach is, whether it's awareness or brand lift or activity on your website or whatever it might be. I think that's what we're all trying to unlock is what's the formula?
I'll add on if that's okay. Agree with both of those, and we'll add on that omnichannel doesn't necessarily mean showing up in every available channel. It means showing up in the channels that have the most meaning to the people that we're trying to make impact with, and doing so in a way that has value to, I guess, like their day when you show up.
Love it. All right. Anyone else have any extra thoughts you want to add to this?
Yeah, I'd add to that too, just to pile on what James was just saying, is that, I mean, we have the luxury of, communicating through many, many channels now. And that's been the case for a while, even before the digital world. But we need to interact with consumers through the channels they're most comfortable with. And I think now we have that opportunity to measure and understand a lot more today than we did in the past. And that's the exciting part about omnichannel marketing, the ability to actually execute in whatever channel people are most comfortable with and communicate our clients' brands out in that market, and then get a signal back on what's working, what's not working.
And the other thing I'd like to add here, which you just referred to, this is nothing new. Integrated media planning and marketing is how this all started, right? So it's got a new name, but it's really decades old. And what's most important is rewarding people for their attention. And creative wins regardless of the format or environment. All these things we're talking about now and worrying about, the general public, our target audience, couldn't give it a second thought. All they care about is that whatever messaging they receive makes sense to them. And if it does, they'll give you their time and they'll pay attention and they'll respond. And if it doesn't, if it's out of place, if it misses on content and context, they'll move on with their day. They didn't wake up with the sole purpose of consuming your message today anyway. So I just want to level set that. I think people, when they speak to omni-channel or multi-channel marketing, that there's some sort of magic formula there, and it's nothing new, in my view.
Yeah, and I think I would add, one of the other things that I think we sometimes forget is not only is omnichannel defined by our customer, but it's also defined by their tolerance. I know these days fatigue is a huge piece that we have to contend with. And I don't think it's often incorporated into measurement and optimization in terms of the fatigue that some of our consumers get because we're everywhere.
And there won't be fatigue if it's relevant to them, right?
Also true. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it looks different depending on whether you're engaging prospects, or in my case, I'm often talking to a consumer who has already agreed into a relationship with the company. So it's about maintaining that trust, and you can even fatigue your own clients. So yeah.
Yep. I think there's a saying, I might have made this up, I tweaked it. It's, people don't hate advertising, they hate irrelevant advertising. So if you're speaking to them and they're, it's connecting and you're, really offering something that's kind of a value to them and hitting them at the right time. Hey, I love a good ad that, is going to either give me a discount or get me to, kind of be reminded of something there. So these are great points. Does anyone else have anything they want to add to this? This will be the easiest question of the day, I promise.
That felt like the quiz.
I'm sorry.
Who here knows the topic of the panel?
This is true. This is true. No, I think everyone had some great context there. So if there's nothing else to add, I'll go ahead and kind of move into the next one. So we have a diverse group of professionals on the panel, but also in the crowd, right? So maybe they're starting out, maybe they're an expert, but let's focus on this first part or this first question on, maybe there's a team that has a solid marketing department, right? But they're really looking to kind of add these other channels to create that 360 view of the omni-channel marketing experience. What are some advice maybe that you implemented or looking back would have implemented and given advice to those individuals who are, looking to launch into this, super important topic?
I can kick us off.
Yeah.
I think I would start with the idea of mutual value in mind. Only go into channels that represent value for your target audience as much as your brand, and starting there should give you a pretty select few channels that make the most sense to start with as your bullseye, and then you can work outwards from there. And if you go with that philosophy of always providing value to both sides of that equation and probably putting the target audience first, I think you'll be in pretty good shape to make some good decisions.
Well said.
I've always thought of marketing as a more professional corporate commercial version of psychology. So just building on what James said, to provide value, you really kind of need to get into their head a little bit. So I'm a big fan of journey maps and understanding like what does their day-to-day look like and the touch points that they interact with, whether they're positive or negative or neutral. And then you can build on that once you have an understanding of who they are and what motivates them.
Yeah, I would echo that. I think we're all seeking a way in, right? We don't want to be in the way. We want to find a way in. And the way to get there is, first of all, understand it's not about us, it's about the audience. And if you can find that merger of creative, data, media, content, context, bring it all together, then you have a chance of finding that way in, right? And resonating and sticking and creating some sort of connection.
Amazing. Anyone else have anything to add to that?
I mean, I think one of the things that we see a lot is especially in the early stage or growth level startup phase is clients that get a little overwhelmed on what omni-channel would mean for them. They do feel like it means they have to do more than what they're comfortable with. And I think getting them comfortable with a set that is focused on their needs and those of the customers is certainly one of those things that we've always kind of started that conversation with. Like we need to do more than the one thing that you got conversion on yesterday, but we don't have to do everything tomorrow. So just making sure that we're adapting our approach and our strategy as we go into omni-channel, I think is one way that helps communicate the value of it.
Yeah.
And I think we have from our perspective, since we're an agency in a smaller niche, focused on, talking to a CHRO about employer branding. I think we have an extra unique channel because we've got people that are not natural marketers and trying to explain to them the nature of omni-channel and to be honest with you, sometimes just the return on investment, that we should use and the definition of that. Clearly we always try and loop in the CMO and the marketing team from the corporate side, but just to get the concept over to people who are, HR almost, conservative, risk averse by nature is an extra challenge we face. So just being that educator, I think, is really important because it's brand new to a lot of people still.
Yeah, I feel like if you say the word omni-channel marketing, if you're not in the marketing space, that can be a pretty scary thing, right? Fancy word. Amazing. Anyone else have anything to add? It might have actually been everyone on the panel. All right, so we'll be moving on here. So, I guess, in terms of, this might not be relevant to everyone on the conversation, but those who, are either explaining to internal stakeholders or to their customers, how's like your best way have you seen to position the value of omni-channel marketing, right? Because I think as business owners or individuals that are maybe in the executive suite, they have a general idea of, maybe email marketing, social media marketing. They kind of have these ideas of what they think a marketing is. Do you have any advice for people on how to best articulate that, and any examples that you've used in the past? I think could be super helpful if you have any context on that.
Demystify it, right? Try to demystify it. I think there's an implication that there's some sort of special knowledge and that this is going to be really complex and require a lot of unique awareness and understanding. And what we usually try to do is have people understand the role of each touch point and how to get those right to begin with. Start simple. Look at it as a sauce, maybe, and not the entire spice rack that you need to use all at once. Demystify.
Love it.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Oh,
And to add on to that point, Greg, I feel like it's easy to jump to omnichannel as the question that we're asking, like how do we do omnichannel, rather than as a part of the answer to the question. So encouraging people to start with what is the real question, what's the thing you're trying to solve, and then omnichannel can be a part of that answer to a greater or lesser degree, depending on what it is you're trying to do. That I think helps demystify it, because everything comes into a media plan with purpose once you've started with a very clear question in mind. And you can work your way into what elements of an omnichannel plan make sense for the question that you've asked, rather than starting out, I want an omnichannel plan, how do I do that?
Yeah, exactly. Omnichannel could be two, right? It could be very simple.
Right, exactly.
End of the day, it's all about returning, showcasing to the business return on ad spend, right? And not every business, especially particularly the more niche you might be, there's channels that doesn't make sense. So, don't do omnichannel for omnichannel's sake. But there's obviously a lot of ways of fine-tuning those and getting the right mix, and in my experience at least.
The other thing we've heard from a lot of brands we work with is that it's evolving, it's fluid.
Yeah.
So, the fuel mix that worked great last year maybe isn't working the same this year. And you've got to be a little ruthless with it and be willing to let things go and let new things come in.
Well, I think even, we've got so much available in terms of attribution and data collection these days. We start to get a little bit comfortable and complacent, but I think we have to remember that at the end of the day, there's people at the end of all of this, and it's always going to be more art than science because of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think if anyone else has anything to add, feel free. But just kind of moving things along, there's a few questions that kind of came up. So I think maybe Shane, you can take this one, because I think you have a unique insight. But in terms of balancing that art and science of marketing, because I do believe it's a mix, right? There's certainly elements that are both, like, in your daily work, working with your clients, how do you balance that, creativity to making that very human-centric experience while also having data-driven decisions. If you can speak on that and kind of how you think about it and how you also explain that to the client in a way that kind of helps bring it home.
Yeah. Well, I think we always start with, data is the raw material, right? The thing that helps us make some of those decisions and really see what's working and what's not, especially at both a, mechanical and a human level, is that the insight that data provides is what we act on, right? So it's not necessarily, oh, we saw this sort of lift in traffic over a certain period of time, or a lift in conversions or lead generation. It's, really getting to what did work other than just that channel or that message. It's a combination of those things. So as much as omnichannel is about multiple channels and touch points, we have to look at the other variables involved, right? So I think when we kind of take a look at that a little deeper in terms of not just looking at the data, but really looking at what it's telling us, and being open to experimentation, right? Marketing, like law or medicine, is a practice. We're learning something new every day, and being able to be flexible and be open to those learnings as opposed to this worked or this didn't, really look at a little bit more nuance, I think, is kind of where we kind of come out with our client.
I love it. Anyone else have any thoughts on that?
I mean, I think the idea of like experimenting and learning is really important. I mean, we basically talk about, how do we safely help customers try new things, right? Like, how do we actually take, as much of the risk away as possible? I mean, they're investing dollars. They're trying to get, we always talk about trying to find signs of life by media channel. And if we're able to get a sign of life, then we can figure out, how to scale that up in a more conscious and responsible way. I think that, the idea of going around and just like, doing over the top investments is just, I mean, I think that's behind us and it's just not part of our philosophy, but helping guide customers to do things in a way that's smart and measured and allows us to take risks and give them, the guidance and expertise that go along with, the executing those campaigns, and then trying to double down where we've shown those signs of life is important.
Amazing. All right. We'll move on to the next question unless anyone has anything to add to that, and definitely appreciate everyone's amazing insights. This was kind of brought up through, I think, a few points. We live in a very fast-paced, not just world, but a fast-paced innovation period, especially I think around, tech stacks, particularly in MarTech, ad tech, even social media platforms. So, I mean, I'm curious, as leaders in your organization, there's a lot of moving pieces, a lot of new, trends, but how do you, stay current on the marketing trends, but then really decide which ones to implement? Kind of leave that as an open-ended question, and love to hear, the panel's thoughts on kind of how you balance, kind of keeping that gas pedal on what's working while still making sure we're staying innovative, because we all know when we talk to clients, that's, at least in my experience, that's the one thing that they, are always bringing up. What's new? What's next? How can we stand out? What's different? So it'd be great to get some of your thoughts on how you do that. And if no one has any thoughts on,
I'll open it up. I would say it starts with just yourself. Stay calm and carry on, right? I think we all have a tendency to get excited about ideas, and we want to see, we like to think about how they're all going to work, right? There's this deep optimism, which can get you very distracted very quickly. And so that's where I always start, is just holding steady and trying to keep focus. Listen as much as I can to everything out there. But just try to meter myself, because I think everything should work and everything can work. And I want to, see what that pathway could be. So anyway,
Yeah.
just trying to trigger the conversation here.
I-
Appreciate that.
In my world, I think it's a little different because I am in the brand side of a client, focusing on an internal client. So staying relevant really depends on what the use case is. And to add on to that, financial services has its own nuances. So are we talking about a regulatory change from the SEC that we need to communicate? Or are we talking about the launch of a new app? Each application to me would take me down a different path of, yes, I want to stay current on like the sensitivities in the environment right now for a potential sensitive communication. But on the technology side, we want to ensure that we're competitive. So it's about ensuring that we are best in class in some areas. And then, others are not a priority for us so that we're not falling behind. And so then the research is looking within a certain industry or competitive set.
It makes a lot of sense.
I think something that I've always talked about with clients is innovating. What we're talking about here really is innovating in your media plans and innovating with purpose. It's easy to chase new things. I think everybody's kind of touched on that. But back to what Neil was talking about just a minute ago, kind of looking for signs of life. I think defining on the way into that experiment, one, what does purposeful innovation mean for my business? So why am I looking for innovation and what should it be solving? And then part two of that would be defining what is the scope and tolerance for taking risks. And to use the example of the 70-20-10 philosophy of having 70% of your media plan tried and true, workhorse media channels or tactics, 20% being incremental innovations on those things, and then 10% being maybe net new full innovations that you've never tested before. And obviously that's just an example, but each brand can kind of define for themselves what those ratios are in order to get towards the innovation agenda that they've set for themselves that really has purpose within their kind of marketing organization.
Yeah, I think I'll echo that, James. I think if I look at even the clients we have today with my firm or back in my ad agency's days, I mean, every client, like we had, a very large regional grocery retailer, and as much as they put behind all tactics across marketing and advertising, innovation was not one of them. First was not a virtue for them. They were a very conservative run company. And it took years to get them into something that was a little new or a little uncomfortable. They were very measured. They were very risk averse. So again, I think you're right. Making sure that it matches the client's needs, but also their personality. How they do. Innovation isn't necessarily a virtue for everyone.
And also that innovation is relative to where you are right now, right? So innovation for one brand looks very different than innovation to another brand. And that's okay because everybody's kind of on their own journey. So it's not like everybody needs to be chasing the same type of innovation. It's more of what's useful for each individual.
Excellent. Does anyone else have any thoughts on this? All right. Appreciate that great context. So it's 2023, or wait, actually it's 2024. Time kind of flies when you're startup land. But you're not going to get off this call without a question about AI. So, I guess if you can speak to the integration of AI and omni marketing, how are you leveraging AI, or are you leveraging AI technologies specifically around this customer journey in omni-channel marketing? I know there's a lot of tools out there. I would love to hear your thoughts. Maybe we'll start with Neil if he has any thoughts on this, and then we can kind of just open it up to anyone in particular in terms of anything they've tested out that's worked that seems promising.
Yeah, I mean, I think our greatest use of AI, is with our clients is on their job description content. that's kind of like you've got a lot of really terrible job descriptions out in the world. And unfortunately, like, at the end of the day, all the branding that we do through all the channels ends up at a job description and someone applying for a job. So that's probably like not very exciting, not very sexy, but like really important to get good content, because that affects our conversion rates. And then the second category that we're actually using it a decent amount in creative to help us iterate and create more options with fewer resources from a creative perspective. So we'll use AI to spin up multiple versions of creative. So
yeah, and I think, if I can kind of riff on that for a second, I think the beautiful thing is a lot of people have this fear of AI with it, replacing the team that's doing the creative and doing the job posting. But really what that should be doing, and I imagine a practice, is allowing those individuals to actually take that information, improve upon it, and then move quicker with less resources. I mean, I think that's the world we live in, where we need to be kind of moving at a very, very quick pace. Does anyone else have any thoughts on how they're leveraging AI? I would love to
I
get
actually
some
have an example, just building, Judah, on what you're saying in terms of enhancing the people's work. So my company operates as an in-house agency, and our clients are business units across the firm. So we have teams of designers, writers, and we, as a service to many of our financial advisors for the firm, provide them with omni-channel experiences, including website and social media. So the design team is building out those assets. So similar to Neil, we are using AI to kind of get the foundation. So providing templates that form to brand standards for the web. And then the design team can come and add a layer of sophistication and style and voice. And on the writing side, we're doing the same thing. Like, we have proofreaders who in the past have been, doing everything from grammar to tone of voice. We're now kind of outsourcing the grammar to AI and allowing the proofreaders to spend more time on kind of the elevated voice work.
Yeah, I love it. It's a great example, and yeah, so some great nuggets in there. I know other than AI. Let's hear it.
I think one thing that for us is because we tend to focus a lot more on positioning and strategy more than execution, is a lot in the writing space, is finding ways to incorporate that AI, and especially when we're looking at doing things like message testing and things of that sort, really coming up with multiple options to really put in market, because you don't know it works until it's out there. But I think another place that we're starting to explore, depending on, again, client tolerance and organizational, to say nothing of security and privacy concerns, is personalization, AI through personalization, using that to make our more, to really bring that relevance to our that end audience.
Makes a lot of sense. Rick, you using any AI these days?
It's same as everybody here. Language tools, very helpful. And it's like having an extra team, extra resource in that sense. I think there's fresh thinking. I know that sounds funny, but fresh thinking we get from it. Just challenging ideas and triggering new thoughts. Creative reformatting, that kind of thing. We haven't yet used it to create an out-of-home media plan.
Sure.
But maybe one day, we'll see. Right now, it's kind of like a fresh new advisor. How about that?
There you go. I can do your proofreading a lot quicker than most. Let's just say that. Yeah, no, I think, to me, this is one of the more exciting kind of developments. Just probably that, clearly understood, but I mean, really, I believe that AI is going to be able to enable us to leverage our strategic team members to really be freed up to do that strategic work. But I almost look at it as a way to kind of outsource, I don't want to say lower level, but kind of repetitive task and those things that really just need to be done that are crucial to the business. And give the team, even if that's 2 hours per person, maybe that's a stretch, 30 minutes per person over a period of time, that's going to give your business a massive competitive advantage. And so, I think in terms of where, we're going, I think, that's a very important kind of key element for hiring. Something we're looking a lot at is, how are you leveraging AI in your day-to-day job, and how do you plan to do so? So yeah, once they start doing out-of-home planning, Rick, please send it my way. I'd be very interested in that.
One interesting exercise we did recently was setting it up and prompting it so we could deliver a pitch and get challenged.
Oh,
So
cool.
find the holes in our rationale, find the holes in our pitch, be the client, basically.
Yep.
And that was eye-opening. And I think what we learned is that inevitably we walk in with a lot of assumptions, and we think our clients understand, or our target audience understands things that we already assume when they don't. And
Yeah.
so I guess using it to poke holes, right? Using it to poke holes. And I found it very eye-opening there. Yeah. That was encouraging.
It's a great exercise. James, anything you want to add to this?
No, I was just mulling that over. I'm going to start doing that. That's a really good idea.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of just to echo everything that everybody said. AI is a fantastic tool. I think the things that interest me around the industry are the applications of it that make a huge amount of sense. That I guess fill gaps in knowledge that you either wouldn't have on your own, or you just wouldn't be able to do in any sensible timeline. And from a marketing point of view, there's just so many different applications of that, from the production of creative, tailoring creative to specific audiences, all the way through to finding information, making decisions around options. So it's certainly something that we're thinking about within our business.
Amazing. All right. So I think in terms of, kind of moving the conversation forward, this may be relevant to everyone on the panel. I think so, maybe not. If not, no worries. But in terms of mixing analog, offline and digital, obviously the conversation today is around omnichannel. How are you creatively blending, these two marketing methods with your digital strategies to achieve that omni-channel approach, which I think we've done a good job at defining what omni-channel is. It's not necessarily being everywhere, but being everywhere where your customer needs to be, or everywhere that your customer is at the right time. If anyone has any kind of, experience in this, would love to kind of get your thoughts on, how you're implementing this, some learnings that you've had from it. Any kind of, this is kind of an open-ended question, but we'd love to see how people are using that offline to kind of online, to help achieve that omni-channel experience.
I can talk to kind of experiences in prop tech. I think there's big opportunity on the property construction side. There's kind of ingrained behavior around, home services professionals driving trucks and cars and, using that as like their office and form of advertising. I wouldn't say that we had perfected how to, bridge between that awareness vehicle to kind of a digital tactic. Things that we were testing out were, business cards with QR codes to go to, more tailored landing experiences. But I think there's a big opportunity for sure, and even more so in certain industries.
Yep. Makes a lot of sense. Anyone else have any thoughts on this or experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the move offline, for employment advertising and employer branding is again, people have done billboards and things like that in the past. I think we're trying to get to, and we have a client we just did airport advertising for. And then, when we worked with you in the past, as we start to activate campus recruiting in new ways to capture, a totally different generation and how they engage with employers. Those are all really important things for us. But I think on the employment marketing side, it's all very new to find ways to activate versus like going old school, just billboard, like, apply today, right? Like we're trying to get more. Someone mentioned the journey. We're trying to be more mindful about like what is the journey that someone takes from awareness of an employer to actually starting a job, and what's that experience like. So I think that there's lots of opportunities that we're tinkering with now and see as a way for employers to differentiate themselves, given how much the world of work has changed and how much the different generations are changing right now in the workforce.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I mean, I think I read. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, in a similar way, we recently worked with updating a 40-year-old brand, a local community radio station, and while they were starting to lose listeners to obviously more digital means, and we wanted to garner those, obviously there was that online component, but we didn't want to alienate the audience that we've built over 40 years. So we did have to look at some of the more offline, whether that's out of home or even old school print and things of that sort, to really make sure that we were speaking to both sides of that audience, the one that we wanted to retain and the one that we wanted to that will sustain it for the next 40 years. So I think it really does come down to whatever that consumer mix is, and of course what your goal is. So out of home and things of that sort did help us communicate this new brand, where maybe it wouldn't have been as effective for other means.
At risk of oversimplifying this whole thing, I think that clearly defining the role of channel when you're putting your omni-channel campaigns together is maybe one of the most important things you can do. I think a few people have touched on consumer journey or journey mapping in various different ways. You have the overarching campaign objective, the goal that you're trying to get to, but each of the channels that you select have their own KPI that feeds into that along the consumer journey or the I guess the campaign experience that you're constructing. And as long as you're really clear on what the role of each of those channels within the mix is, not all of it has to be awareness or not all of it has to be conversion, but as long as they're lined up and connected in a way that all ladders up to the overall campaign goal. I mean, it sounds simple, but starting there, I think that's what we try to do in it, and it puts the campaign in good stead to be successful.
Love it. All right. Well, so we'll take that as a sign for moving on to this next question here. And again, thank you everyone for this very insightful conversation. I'm sure there's more to be said, but everyone's being mindful of each other's time, so much appreciated. So how do you envision the future of the relationship between brands and consumers, right? Because I think that's something that is probably the most critical piece, right? Is brands and the consumers and connecting those two, evolving with the advancements of omni-channel marketing. And how can we be more mindful of, advertising in a way that resonates with them, as opposed to just, blasting, radio or, blasting ads that just maybe are not as relevant.
I think, please.
Okay, I'll make mine brief because it doesn't answer the advertising piece, but the brands and consumer piece, that's something that we kind of is an ongoing challenge because our consumers are starting to look very different. So it's not a one size fits all answer. I work for a very long-term, conservative financial brand. Our average client is age 63. I am not 63 and I am a client of the company. And what I need and what, our boomer generation needs looks very different. So We're looking at how do we address that discrepancy in a meaningful way. And through technology, we're doing things like enabling the advisor who knows the client on a personal relationship level to have the capability to enable some features, disable others, so that you're providing a simplified experience for one consumer group, but a more tech-forward experience for another one.
Yeah, that's great. Really, it's about getting into the mind of the end user, right? What are their needs? Because those are certainly different, than someone that might be, a much different demographic in age and income. And Rick, I think you had something to share.
Well, I just want to expand on what Erica said, because it really goes back to us as marketers and media people, providing our most powerful asset, which is our undivided attention. And it's listening and understanding what the audience needs. Because in their view, they're not receiving online or offline or any of the technological descriptions that we worry about. It's just, did it make sense? Was it easy? Did it solve their problem? Were they rewarded for their attention? And the more we lean into that, the more effective our use of media will be, and the more effective our omni-channel mix will end up. But just some of the things, Erica, you noted, just simple fixes, right? And what you're really speaking about is how can we speak their language and make it easy for them? And I think sometimes that gets lost in what is the perfect omni-channel mix? It's like, well, the one that, that makes it easy for the consumer to absorb the message and feel like they were rewarded for their time.
Amazing. Seems like a lot of the theme we're not to to oversimplify, but a lot of this seems to be simplifying it for the stakeholders to understand the value of these and trying to articulate that in as simple and straightforward of a way as possible. So I really appreciate that. We're going to wrap up this part of the session. And each of you are going to get a chance. This is kind of taking a step. He doesn't need to focus on the omnichannel piece of it, because that's a pretty nuanced and particular component of marketing, even though it's very important. You've all been very successful. And I encourage everyone to kind of connect with the team offline, see what they're doing, see the success that they're having and the problems they're solving for their customers. There's no doubt you've all reached a level of success, and I think it would behoove us to not kind of get a final input from each of you in terms of up and coming marketers, maybe that are really inspired to be in this field. Could you share maybe a lesson or a piece of advice that is looking to grow in the marketing world? And I'll start this off. Let's go with Shane. Maybe if you want to kind of start it off, and then Shane, just call the next person, and we'll just make sure everyone gets a chance to
Sure.
give them.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I think has helped me the most is just that understanding that, when you do take that one size fits all approach, you're going to spend all of your time making it fit instead of making it work, right? I think, one size fits one, right? Your customer, Erica's customers, Rick's customers are all going to be very different. Even within our audience segment, they're different. And I think the more credence and opportunity to show that we understand that, I think is best. There is no formula, and we only know if it works once it's in market. And then our job as advisors and as leaders is to continue to optimize and find new ways to learn and grow, the impact of what we do. And that's not just return on investment, but that ROI, that I can mean so many different things. It can be an inspiration, it can be an impact, it can be an innovation. So I think, really making it a practice and not such a, here's the formula for what we need for this brand or this type of business, I think is probably the most valuable thing I've learned over the past, 15, 20 years. James?
Yeah, thanks. Yes, it's really nice. I think the thing that
I would focus on is as a result of our own industry jargon, we easily dehumanize the marketing industry. We talk about consumers and customers and target audiences, but there are people seeing the things that we put out in the world. And I think it's very easily overlooked to come back to a simple question. That's if I saw this out in the world, if my family, if my friends, whoever it is, saw this out in the world, would they like it or would they find it annoying? And if you ask yourselves that question going into your media plans, I think that you'll end up in pretty good shape, because I think it's quite easily overlooked in a lot of media plans. And maybe it's recency bias, but coming back to what we were talking about at the start, that if you can focus on going into your planning, the question of how are you going to provide some form of value to people, then that gives you a strong starting point. And you get to define what value means to your business and to your target audience of people, in the sense that, you know, sometimes it is showing up in the right moment with relevance, or sometimes it might be entertaining, or sometimes it might be educating, or whatever it may be. As long as you've defined what that value is and you stay true to it, I think that that's a strong starting point.
Excellent. You have to tag the next contestant.
Let's go, Erica.
I'd say I will use the jargon. I think you should ensure that you're adding or creating value. But just in simple terms, like just make sure that you're making life better, either for your client, for the customer. That would be my advice.
Short and sweet. Love it. All right, Erica, who's next? I think we got a couple.
Got to tag Rick.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you. Yeah, just echoing everybody here. You know, it's not magic, right? It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to get it right. And, you know, when I think about campaigns that worked really well, that either had great returns, created a model that extended over a period of time, that you know really paid off the investment. There was always a level of instinct in it. There was always a small risk based on one of us, or the people who we work with, saying, you know, I just think it's going to be right this way. And trust that. That's what I would say.
You don't get that from AI, do you?
You might.
Eventually we might, but yeah, no, I at this point I haven't seen that yet, but soon enough.
Haven't yet. I would say palms up to that. Make no assumptions.
This is true. This is true, especially how fast it's moving. All right, well, I'm going to tag the last one for you. I believe Neil. Last but not least.
Yeah, all good. I mean, I think that, again, you know, with our it's funny, in order to be able to use, you know, financial services, you know, everybody needs a job and a job they're happy with. And so we talk with our clients a lot about just trying to make sure that they're authentic and what they're selling in their advertisements and their, you know, jobs is a match, because the idea of like misleading someone and convincing them to apply and they get hired and it's not what they expect, you know, is can do more damage in the end versus just filling the job and filling the seat. So we really try and talk about, you know, being authentic, being your authentic brand, regardless of whatever channel we recommend. So I think that that's really, really important across all channels. So I think that's what at the core of building successful marketing campaigns.
I'll use an anecdote. I can't steal this. One of my mentors gave it to me, but you know, hiring is so critical to your business, to your marketing, to function, any function in the business. But, you know, when you're working, you know, always forever think of us as a startup, just because that's kind of the mindset I like to keep. But, you know, the startup is can be an amazing experience for the right type of people and a terrible experience for the wrong type of person. So I believe in just those types of interviews. This is more of just a side note. It's very much a two-way industry. Like, you know, show them the dirty laundry, let them know what the challenges are, what you're facing. Because yeah, if you sell a dream, they're humans. They're going to figure out pretty quickly that, hey, this wasn't what I thought it was, and how how much money did you spend on resources, investing in that, the budget and everything. So that's a great piece of advice, not just for marketing, but also for recruiting. So really appreciate it. All right. So we're gonna make sure everyone has a chance to be followed up with in terms of how people can reach you. I'm sure that will be spread out to the followers, but also we'll share you this recording. I'm going to hand it over to the EthAum team to let us know what we want to transition to next.
Fantastic, Judah. Really appreciate your you moderating the panel today, and definitely we got really great insights from the panelists. Again, very diverse, very intelligent insights. And now it's the time to move on to the roast session, which I particularly like. So Judah, why don't you share your screen, talk briefly about what you do at Nickelytics, the solution, the traction, and let's get the feedback from the panel. Yeah.
My internet's breaking up. I can't hear you. What'd you say?
I know this is the right time to, for the
Yes.
internet to not work. But hey, so not only, the feedback, but also if you have some kind of guidance for Judah that, hey, probably this is how your product roadmap could look like, or this is how you could find better GTM partners, or this is how you could find, reseller partners and so on and so forth. Please feel free to share those guidance with us. Yeah. So other than roasting, we can have some guidance as well.
All good. All good. I got my napkins here. I'm ready to shed some tears. I know Shane's like chomping at the bit. He's ready to make me cry. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. And I want to make sure we can all see this.
Yes, you see a screen.
Okay, perfect. All right. So thank you so much, everyone. My name's Judah, co-founder, CEO of Nickelytics. You can really think of us as the conversion between mobility, out of home, and technology. At the end of the day, the problem we're solving for advertisers is actually in this offline world. So if you think of, offline, traditionally the biggest player, the gorilla in the room is billboards, right? Obviously, it's a great medium. You don't see many empty billboards, so they're certainly working. But we feel that there's a way to optimize them, then also use them as part of your campaign while leveraging, other things that our platform can help solve for. So the fragmentation has been, something that we've heard some, some I want to say complaints, but some challenges with. The speed at which they can be launched can sometimes be, arduous and slow. And the biggest thing we hear is the difficulty of measurement. So it's like, it's 50% of the time it's working, but it exactly is what 50% of that is. And so we've built a platform that makes launching offline ads as simple, measurable, and scalable as launching an online ad. The way we've done this, and the kind of the vertical number one that we focused on is in this gig economy space. So my background was actually starting a rideshare company and grew that. And I realized people were actually interested in advertising on these vehicles. But really what they cared about as we developed this platform, we internally called it Nickelytics, could do some really cool stuff around the measurement piece. So, showing people not just the impressions, right? That's the first layer of information. And that's just something that, really is kind of to me, that's, bottom line, what you need to provide. But the real magic happens is when this campaign go live, we provide real-time ad tracking to show where those vehicles are at, proof of performance, actually the ability to digitally retarget your ideal consumer, and then show attribution, meaning how many of those consumers that were exposed to your ad visited your website. And we've done this through our network where you can download a mobile app. We have over 50,000 drivers. These are drivers that are driving on the road, 6 to 8 hours a day, Uber, Lyft, Instacart. And then we do a background check and all that good jazz to make sure you're getting the best of the best. And our app actually tracks the quality of their driving. So, it's a great brand representation. But again, I really want to focus on what we solve for the advertisers, which is return on ad spend, right? So it's helping brands to understand how many of these advertisers that were exposed to your campaigns took action. A lot of that starts with an actually omni-channel experience. So maybe you're a Dick's Sporting Good and you want to retarget sports enthusiasts, well, you can retarget them through the mobile app, connected TV, home internet, really just a variety of ways, even mail. And we can show through our dashboard what action was taken. Did they visit your website? Did they make a purchase? Did they click this? And so that's where we've seen a lot of success with our customers. So we've built out this gig economy platform, and that's been a business that's been really well, I would say, growing for us, and really there's been more adoption in the market in terms of this as a medium. But we've also kind of seen a resurgence of my original thesis that it's really hard to do both, to run a rideshare company and an advertising company, because we know advertisers care about very particular things. And again, a lot of that is the return on ad spend. So we've launched a campaign now with InDrive with over 1,000 vehicles in Miami, where we're handling their advertising. We've also started conversations with GetAround to figure out how to monetize their fleet, as well as Cabify, as well, because all mobility companies are very interested in figuring out how they can monetize their fleet. And we all know advertising has pretty much been the one thing that's subsidized or helped subsidize almost every major industry. So another vertical I'm super excited to talk about, and an area that we're really bullish on, is in the robotic advertising network. So we just finished a campaign with Charles Schwab with 100 vehicles in downtown LA. Well, we also just recently partnered with several other players in this space. The largest one is Starship, and between these partnerships with them and KiwiBot, we now have a footprint of over 50 universities that are operating 10 hours a day. And we have the chance to connect our API. So brands are getting this very kind of futuristic opportunity to reach this very target niche, while we get to provide the analytics. So it's a great partnership and something that's growing a lot. I'm not sure if everyone's seen these advertisements or seen these robots, but they're super fun. If you go to our LinkedIn, you can see kind of what we're doing. A lot of use cases there. And how we make money, right? So that's an important thing. So brands typically pay us in between, just for simple math, about $1,000 per month per vehicle. We do have a campaign minimum, right? We don't want to just have one car running around in New York City. That would not make a lot of sense. So we have a lot of data to help kind of plan on, what's the right number of vehicles per market. And then we share 70% of that, we keep 70% of that $1,000, and we give the driver up to $300 if they're doing their job in terms of driving, which is tracked through our mobile app. And then we can sell our CPM in front of them. So we can actually do kind of things such as, hitting them before the driver actually gets to this. So we're starting to build in a lot of predictive analysis, not thanks to me, but thanks to our CTO. So our CTO, Ricky, I believe is on the call maybe. So his background is a PhD in computer science, specifically in geolocation, and was one of the original Google Maps engineers. Very prolific kind of ex-Googler. My background's been in always kind of go-to-market strategies, business development, business disruption. Led teams at Salesforce, NetApp, built teams at Techstars. We also have a great supporting team. Mendar has a very strong background in digital, also MBA, as well as engineer. So very kind of, I would say, scientific and robust look at how we run our marketing department. Also, head of revenue recently just brought on, because a lot of it's been founder-led sales, as any good old startup should be. Ex-Google, ex-Deloitte, and our head of partnership, TikTok and OfferUp and a few other really exciting places. So, small but mighty. And this is probably the part from an investor standpoint. If anyone wants to invest, feel free to let me know. But this is the thing where we look at kind of finding our product market fit and really being able to now double down. And to us, a big thing was really understanding who are we serving and who are we serving best. At first it was like, let's just sell to everyone, because that was, who doesn't want to take the money, but you got to really think hard and long around, who is going to be the best ideal customers. And so we're on track to hit 10 million in revenue this year with pretty healthy margins. I'm going to skip this. I do believe this is a large company. opportunity from a global perspective. I mean, two things we're solving for: transportation, and the lack of, or the cost of transportation is very expensive. So if you looked over the past 2 years, a lot of these mobility startups that were just, growing at all costs have shut down. And so there's this big kind of resurgence of, okay, we need to actually build profitability into the foundation of it. And for us, really, my North Star is getting 8,888 vehicles wrapped at $1,000 a month and get us to $100 million in annual revenue. So here's a demo. I'm going to save you that. I don't know if I'll have time to do a demo, but a pretty cool platform that's constantly being updated with latest features. And then I think what's exciting, and to me, is the customers that we're getting to work with, right? So we're running some great campaigns, a lot of repeat customers, brands like Coinbase, DirecTV, Regal Cinemas. To me, that's the most exciting part, right? When you can have a brand that you're adding value to, and quick use, a case study, for example, would be Amtrak. So they came to us, 5 vehicles in New York City. Wanted to test this out. As a lot of brands, they don't want to go big at first in a new medium, right? And so we said, hey, let us prove to you that we can do what we can say we do. And then they came back and it's 60 vehicles, and now they're doing things in the robotics as well, and have been a great client. And again, I can sit here and tell you how good we are, but it's more about the testimonials, the case studies. And I think the biggest thing in terms of the case studies and testimonials is being able to connect that offline to online activity. And I'll skip this. And really, a lot of people ask about competition. We compete, to me, the biggest thing that we're competing against is the billboards, right? Which are great. But there's a lot of things that we can do that they can't, right? And so we want to really focus on that from a fraction of the cost of the billboards, similar level of CPM, analytics that you can track. And billboards are great, but at the same time, we can also do things like swarm events, right? So, for some reason, a lot of people wanted to have brands at Taylor Swift concerts, and we were able to have them, circle those events. We worked with Coinbase where they're going to, these cryptocurrency events and driving around. And we think this is a space that will continue to grow, and we're adding new products over the next 12 months. So that's my pitch.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Judah. Let's take questions. Who wants to go first? Yeah,
Can you talk a bit more about the measurement piece? I know that's always one of the ones that comes up for agencies when we're talking about more of the kind of offline, out of home. So it's definitely an interesting part of it to hear more about.
Yeah, happy to. So I can't take, much credit for this, but essentially the way it works at a fundamental level is, so all of our assets, whether it be robots, whether it be gig economy drivers, they have a cell phone or unique ID or geospatial data, right? So we basically have that time and space that they're at. We then create a visibility cone of, let's say, 20 feet. And then we have an algorithm based on how fast they're going, the types of day, weather, how, just different kind of things that go into that. And then we cross correlate that with large data warehouses of people who have cell phones within their pockets or on their, in their hand. And then we report that as, an impression. We can't guarantee you saw the ad, just like you can't guarantee someone saw an ad online. But we say, hey, this is the first layer of information. We have a lot of heat mapping. We have the live tracking there to kind of provide that proof of performance. But what we're really focused on is, if someone were to Google that brand that drove by and then they then took action, we follow that unique ID in a GDPR, CCPI compliant way. Then we can kind of just follow that through all the way through the life cycle. And the idea is to hit them with relevant information, right? So we're not, advertising something that's totally just not relevant to them. And, typically a brand is, or a consumer, especially in this over digitalized world that we all grew up in, or, lived in. It's critical for brands to be exposed to these ads, or consumers to be exposed to these ads, a number of times. I think the number right now is 7. And so it's kind of just connecting those two pieces. And a much more technical answer, I'm sure Ricky he's probably, wanting to answer, but we're short on time. So hopefully that answers it at a high level, and I'm happy to send you a demo that goes into a little bit more detail on that.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Judah. Let's see. Yeah, Rick, please.
I'm curious about the robots. I think that those are gaining like some cultural, I don't even know how to say it, like a following in a way. They're playful. I see them show up as a personality.
Yep.
And talk to us more about those.
Yeah, no, definitely a vertical we're super excited about. And one thing we really wanted to stress to there are probably 5 or 6 major players in this in the sector, was that brands don't want to deal with kind of one-off activations. They need to have reach, right? So we've built out the network of, now we have over 5,000 robots, and and this wasn't even in the pitch, but I mean, the amount of virality that comes from it, right? Because every time someone sees it, it's a very playful, cute, like kind of futuristic experience. And then kudos to the brands. They're all the partners. They've done a really good job at building really well designed, like delivery robots. And so where we feel strong, and our pitch is, hey, yes, you could probably get an advertising campaign, 1 or 2. What we want to do is have this become an constant medium, just like cars at first came into the out-of-home space. But there's enough distribution now to where we can get some larger players, especially around the universities, when you're running kind of that timeline. There's a lot of stuff that we're doing. So we just signed the Marlins, for example. They're actually going to be the first in-stadium advertising, where they're going to have robots running around. We were part of the All-Star Weekend kind of like event where they had the robots driving around giving out drinks and people dunking over them. So it's a bit of kind of this experimental. Fans love it. People love it. Most people, not everyone. And then our value proposition is to say, hey, this is actually a valuable data, not just measuring the impressions and the attribution, but also the offline. It's a little trickier to do the offline because it can get very big quick. So we're kind of still working through that piece of it. So yeah, long-winded answer, and something that we're excited about. And it's also growing globally too. So we definitely see, some opportunities there in the future.
I think it would be an interesting idea to try to own some footprints with that, like that this is the campus medium, or it's the core urban medium, or what I've seen sometimes with these kind of new messengers, let's call them, right? Is that there's a sense that they're going to scale everywhere. And sometimes that isn't always the case. I'm curious for your revenue growth, which is congratulations on having a breakout year last year. Good for you. How much of that is cars versus robots?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we're at 90% vehicle wraps and 10%. So we're investing a lot in building out the partnerships. But this year we'll see more of a kind of, probably, I would say, 70-30 split. And I think one thing, just in like on that note, that we need to do a better job at, and we're working actively on this, is when you add new products in or add new offerings, is being very specific and targeted, right? Because if you go to our website, it's like, oh, you have all these different offerings. And so it is actually, we're building, this is a little bit secret, but whatever, it'll be public soon, but like, forget the exact name that we're using, but it's basically marketing, advertising. There's a cool name for it the marketing came up with, but it just specifically speaks to that. And then we can target brands that are interested in that demographic. So yeah, that's kind of 2 answers in one. But yeah, right now our main focus is in the wraps. We feel like that business will continue to grow. There's a lot of things we think we can do better on that as well.
And is your client base brand direct or via agency?
Yeah, I would say 70-30, brand direct. A lot of times what we'll do is, we'll ping the brands and they'll bring it to their agency and we'll work together to kind of help plan that out. We work really well with agencies and we understand that we're part of this large ecosystem and we're not going to be doing everything, we're not trying to take over the whole media landscape, right? And so I think that's one thing that's allowed us to excel. And then also I think in terms of our growth, we got really targeted as I mentioned, like focusing on larger kind of growth stage companies, enterprise customers, where we didn't have to sell them the value of out of home, right? It was kind of that part they understood because they've done things in the past. And then it was more just about kind of getting into, the differentiation and that. So those are the two main things. I think there's a lot more opportunity in the agency space. It's just been having the bandwidth to, get out there and stay top of mind. Because as as an agency owner, there's a lot, you're getting pitched all the time, right? How many pitches have you been in the last week? So it's just, how do we do that in a human way that truly talks about, helping our customers win, and our customers can be partners in the agency space. But obviously I think that's the true key to unlock for us to be able to scale at a much faster pace.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Let's see who wants to go next.
Judah, and when you kind of talking about that kind of agency segment of your customer base, how are you generally engaging the agencies? Is that directly through a media player contact, or are you looking at kind of invading the agency space at more than one department?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a few things. So we try to take a relatively friendly approach, try and saying, hey, listen, this is how I try to simplify things because that's just how my brain works is, your job as an agency owner is to help brands get the best return on investment for their dollar spent, right? And that can mean a lot of things like you mentioned. So if we can help you do that, that's great. If we can't, we don't want to waste your time. And so usually it will be, a variety of outreach. A lot of times they'll reach out to us because they'll see something and, it's not like the agency's reaching out to us for no reason. It's because their brand, like their client saw this and they said, hey, figure out what they do and bring it back to me. And if it makes sense, it's great. And they beat us up on price. It's just how it works, which is great. And so, yeah, it's a bit of a kind of a, like a kind of a two part approach, if you so to speak. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so the begs another question is, are you only going into agencies when a client has brought you in, or are you targeting them directly?
We're definitely targeting them directly. So we've hired a couple national account executives, with our growth. There's some things coming out where, we'll be able to kind of continue to invest in our business in terms of having more support. But yeah, the idea is to have a dedicated individual that's just purely focused on fostering those relationships. And I think what I've found and, I think, people in the out of home space, and even the agency space, it's really relationship based, right? No one wants to be just, pitched, right? And so we're going to be in Miami next week, open invite. So we're having Marlins as one of our customers are going to be on there for Possible Miami. And then we're going to be bringing some of our, quote unquote VIP customers. It's about building relationships, building trust. Because at the end of the day, if they don't trust us, no matter how cool your product is, or if they just don't like you, they're not going to want to work with you, right? I think we all, we've been in this business long enough. You don't want to work with, I don't know if I can swear, but you don't want to work with jerks.
Okay. Let's see if Erica or Neil have any questions or any guidance.
I was curious if you find success in certain markets more so than others. Like, can this model operate in North Dakota, or are you targeting like metro areas?
That's another great question. So So we've run it. I might have skipped that slide, but I can't remember. So yeah, we've deployed over 100 campaigns in 40 different states. I'm still waiting for that one in Hawaii because I want to go down there and help oversee it, but that hasn't happened yet. So we have a network of drivers nationwide, basically anywhere that there's Uber, Lyft, Instacart, any kind of gig economy platform, we can run a campaign. Naturally, it does tend to be these larger metropolitan areas just because you're going to get a higher density of visibility, you're going to get more eyeballs. However, we've run campaigns in Cairo, Michigan, right? So which is really, really, I think, unique in terms of, we can start in particular markets, but we can do very kind of these, I don't want to say secondary markets, but these smaller markets as well. It might take us an extra week to get the drivers kind of vetted and make sure that they're big. But, if we're launching a campaign in Dallas, that's going to be a bit different. But yeah, we've definitely had a lot of strategic partners, or not strategic, just partners that have ran campaigns simultaneously in large markets while also looking at these kind of secondary markets where they're maybe opening up a new bank, where they're opening up a new, grocery store. And so long-winded answer, yeah, that's kind of how we look at it. Obviously, your CPM will be higher, but we charge a flat rate per month because my brain doesn't work that well with CPM. It gets confused.
Got it. Thanks.
Thank you.
And how you doing, Judah? Thanks for taking the questions. Yeah, and congratulations on the growth. The question for you I had is, do you see the robot part is really interesting. Do you see the branding, the wrapping on the robots moving to digital at any point? So creative deployment can be more efficient? Just the way that billboards have moved in that direction. Like, is there a model there that you've looked at it, like even underwriting that for the robotic platforms, so you manage that ad inventory in a more effective way?
Yeah, it's really funny you say that. So we have a partner that has digital screens. And I think that one thing that we saw, so we would manage that through our, and that's one thing we're rolling out this year, digital out of home in the vehicles for tablets, but also that would be our first partner that has that digital ad space. So we would run that through like our SSP, DSP. So yeah, we're going to see more and more, but the use cases for them that's super exciting is there's very unique. Those ones specifically will be in casinos and airports. So I really think we're kind of at the front end, and I could eat my words, but the growth of that will be very exciting because we have partners where we don't partner with, but we're aware of, where they, have these robots in hospitals helping nurses and, shopping malls and security. There's, again, it's basically taking that last mile redundant work that would not be valuable for a human to spend time doing, but also is a very kind of like pleasant experience. So yes, we actually are working with the client. We'll probably be deploying that here in the next, probably the next month or so.
Cool.
One of them we even have, they have a cold brew or like a drink dispenser, so that'll be cool for stadiums. We're excited about. So yeah, it's really cool to see all the innovation happen in that space. But again, the robots are just one vertical. We're going to be continuing to grow. Ultimately, our North Star is to be kind of this like marketplace for all out of home, not for all out of home, for mobility out of home. So where we can really help, mobility companies monetize, help brands reach consumers in a new way, and then help provide the analytics to give them this, robust ad tracking that, brands have come to expect. So that's our North Star. But right now, we got a lot on our plate before we get to be able to do all of that.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Judah, for answering all these questions. And I see that the questions were very soft, and it wasn't really a roast session for you. But yeah, if you have any recommendations for Judah on the product roadmap or on the go-to-market strategies, please feel free to share those on the call.
Yeah, I think I'll jump in. I think this is maybe even one Judah and I have actually spoken about in previous years, but don't discount the creative teams as a pathway into agencies. Innovation, especially sexy things like robots. If you can get the creative team on board and advocating for those opportunities for their messaging and their creative, they can often have great influence not only on the internal players but also the client as well.
Yeah, it's a great, and then maybe share what you did in past life in creative.
Yeah, so I was head of production at an agency for quite some time. So, understanding that sometimes getting, the creative team to think it was their idea is the best way to get something done.
Yeah, great insight. Definitely, definitely great insight. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Shane. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, obviously we have to commend Judah for doing this in public, because nobody wants to, get criticized in public. But Judah volunteered to get roasted on a live stream. So definitely, Judah, much appreciated your bravado over here. But hey, really appreciate Palace time today. I think we got some fantastic insights. We are going to sort of think about them, mull over them, and probably learn even a bit more, and probably have better strategies for Nickelytics, right? I think we need to reconnect again to see how we can collaborate, how we can explore synergies together, how we can help each other, and take it from there. Again, thanks everybody for your time today. Thank you, Judah, for moderating the panel, for going through the roast session, and let's reconnect soon. Yeah, thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye-bye.